Last November, one of our apologetic nights had the topic of, do I have to go to Mass even if? And I gave a list of reasons why. Sometimes somebody might say, do I have to go even if this? And one of the things that was not on the list was, if there's a global pandemic. So I wanted to make an addendum and add that to the list. So if there's a global pandemic, you don't have to go to Mass. But there's an important nuance here, distinction that we have to make, that whereas right now the Archbishop has dispensed us from our Sunday obligation of attending Mass, he cannot dispense us of our Sunday obligation of worship and rest. I'd like to read something from the Catechism. This is from Catechism number 2176. The celebration of Sunday observes the moral commandment inscribed by nature in the human heart to render to God an outward, visible, public, and regular worship as a sign of his universal beneficence to all. So that's to say, the church doesn't make up the rule that we have to worship on Sundays. This is something that's written in our souls. You can think of it like this. Every person who well-minded and seeks and looks around him and realizes that there's things that are good that were created that might not have been at all, and obviously there must be some sort of good creator who has given us all these good things, and so I must show worship to that being. And if I am to show worship to him, then I must show worship in the way that is good and fitting. And if I know what that way is, then I should do it in the way that I'm asked to do it, not in the way that I feel to do. So that would mean there would be a particular time, a particular place, and a particular way in which I'm to show worship. That is natural law. That means that binds for every human person. That every human person must show to God worship. Now, in the Christian tradition, we've had in Christian tradition, we've had added onto that rest, that we must rest. And fortunately for us, the Lord has revealed to us how he wants us to worship, when he wants us to worship and rest, and what he wants us to do. So in the situation, the normal situation is that the church has helped us along and said, hey, this is how you're to worship. Go to Sunday Mass and participate with your whole heart and soul, full active conscious participation, bringing your sacrifice, your prayers to the altar and offering them along with the priest who's offering the person of Jesus Christ to the eternal Father. That's the normal means of our Sunday obligation. Now, when the Archbishop says you're dispensed from your Sunday obligation, that means you don't have to go to the church to fulfill the obligation. But that obligation still binds. The obligation to worship and to rest is still there. So TV Mass, okay, this is, to sit in front of the TV is not in itself fulfilling that obligation. But if I'm uniting myself with the action of the priest and the congregation that's happening across town or across the world, then I'm putting myself in that position that I'm fulfilling that obligation to worship, if I'm truly entering into that worship. I think we're in a unique position right now that if I'm able to go and I still choose not to go, where do I fall there? Technically speaking, there's no obligation to go, but the reasoning behind that, the spirit of the law is, if I'm unable to go for some reason, if I'm sick or vulnerable or something like that, that's kind of the principle there. It's not just a freebie. It's not just, hey, go to Mass in your pajamas. No, I think the Archbishop has more in mind, uh, wanting to make you feel comfortable and safe. But if you are comfortable and safe, if you're going out to restaurants, if you're going out to ball games or theaters or visiting with friends, then you are comfortable to come to Mass, because Mass has more protocols than most of those other places. And so that should be something to really to consider and pray about. Like, am I really fulfilling my obligation, or am I kind of taking an easy way out? Um, at some point, the Archbishop is going to put that dispensation, no dispensation will have to come back again. And that becomes the normal and ordinary means of fulfilling the obligation. And we would only be able to be dispensed of that. If, of course, if we're sick, we're always dispensed. We're never required to go to Mass if we're sick. We're never required to go to Mass if it would be significantly dangerous for us. You're never required to go to Mass if there's 10 feet of snow outside. If you're older and you don't drive, the obligation doesn't hold for you. So in those situations, we can be at peace. Remember, the Lord is inviting us to something. He's inviting us. He's inviting us to that fount of grace, and He wants to part His grace, and He wants to do that in person. There's a certain way, and yes, we can always commune with God no matter where we are, but in ordinary circumstances, He wants to commune with us in ordinary ways. And that ordinary way is actually this supernatural, superabundant way through the physical participation in the Mass, through the real participation, the physical participation in the sacraments. So this is an invitation that I really want you to hear. The Lord is inviting you, and the Lord loves you, and the Lord wants to cast out any fear, certainly, but any complacency too. Whatever might be kind of standing in the way there. Just sit back and think honestly. I'm not casting judgment on anybody, but think about it honestly. Are we really unable to come to Mass? Are we staying away from all social events, all outside encounters? Are we not going to school? Are we not going to theaters? Are we not going to sporting events? Okay. But if you're going to those things, I think maybe it's time that you come back to this thing too.